Okay, good morning, everybody. I want to welcome everybody to the May 15th, 2018 Board of Commissioners zoning hearing. And this morning, we're very blessed to have Pastor Adrian Kutzer from the Eastside Baptist Church lead us in invocation. And then I guess I'll lead us in the pledge. So those who are willing and able, please stand.
Would you pray with me? Our Heavenly Father, you are Lord of all creation, and all creation sings your praise today. We want to join in that chorus and thank you for yet another day we are given to serve you, for we know that your mercies renew every day. I pray for these ladies and these gentlemen serving our county. They are a gift and a blessing if they remain in you, and we pray together that as they consider these matters today, that you would lead them, Father, that you would be their guide. We pray, Father, for your peace and for your grace over these proceedings. And we pray that our words, that our actions, that our demeanors will be worthy of your grace. My prayer is that your Spirit would lead us, would lead them, and inspire them. Father, I pray your special blessings over their families and their loved ones. And Father, we pray that you would give them guidance as they seek to lead. Father, we lift up our county. We pray for your blessings and for your favor. We pray even for the least of these who live among us. We pray for the broken. We pray for the suffering. We pray for the poor. We pray for the lonely. We pray for the longtime residents whom we love, and we pray for the newly arrived immigrants. Father, we pray that you would lead us to be good stewards of our resources and of our abundance. We simply pray this morning that you would grant us your peace, this peace that surpasses all understanding. May your name be made great today. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor. Appreciate it. All right, just one small thing before you get going, John. I've asked, informally asked the board members if we could consider OB 14 after the consent agenda. Bill Higgins, who, as you know, is our duty expert on stormwater, has another important meeting later this morning. But it's critical to be at this discussion about OB 14. So I'm asking the board if that's okay with everybody, if we can move it to right after consent. Okay. Do I need a motion for that? To move it to, I think as long as we informally agree on a consensus, we're fine on it, yeah. As I read the law and interpret it. Yeah, I was watching Perry Mason again last night, so I'm
Watched it.
okay with that, John. It's all
I'm
yours.
just shaking my head. Just ask Lisa.
We could, yes, we could put her on the hot spot, but I'll take the heat on this one. I'm sorry, John. It's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today's hearing will be conducted with the following process and procedure. Each case will be called in numerical order. When each case is called, the applicant is requested to stand to signify that they are in attendance. Then we're going to call for opposition to signify they are here also, so they can be counted for the official record. After the counting of the opposition, the applicant and any opposition will be asked to come forward to be sworn in, so they can present testimony to the Board of Commissioners at the podium to the front of the room. The applicant will testify first, and then the opposition, if any, will testify second. It's important to note that each side only gets 10 minutes to state their case of concerns. There's not a process to reserve your time, and there's not a rebuttal process. So please convey all your information to the board within your 10-minute time frame. Additionally, if more than one person wishes to speak on an issue, you might want to coordinate with each other about what you're going to talk about, because each side only gets 10 minutes and you don't want to cover the same information twice. Then after the 10-minute presentation period, the board will start to discuss the matter at hand. From the discussion, they may ask one or more speakers to come forward for questions or comments regarding the case. After that, the board will make a decision to either hold, continue, approve, or deny the case in hand. There are 2 cases on today's printed agenda which have been withdrawn and will not be heard today. First case is rezoning case Z84 of 2017, Randy E. Pimsler. This case has been withdrawn without prejudice and will not be heard today. And rezoning case LUP3 of 2018, Amanda Stockton. This case has been withdrawn and will not be heard today. There are a number of cases on today's printed agenda which have been continued or held and will not be heard today. First case is rezoning case Z56 of 2017, Oak Hall Companies LLC. That case was held by the Planning Commission until the July 3rd, 2018 Planning Commission zoning hearing, so Z56 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z3 of 2018, Punky Poo LLC. That case was held by the Planning Commission until the July 3rd, 2018 Planning Commission zoning hearing, so Z3 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z8 of 2018, Lloyd Development Services. That case was continued by the staff until the June 5th, 2018 Planning Commission zoning hearing, so Z8 would not be heard today. Rezoning case Z20 of 2018, Elevation Development Group LLC. That case was continued by the staff until the June 5th, 2018 Planning Commission zoning hearing, so Z20 of 2018 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z21 of 2018, W. Reed Koningsmark, was continued by the staff until the June 5th, 2018 Planning Commission zoning hearing, so Z21 would not be heard today. And finally, rezoning case Z26 of 2018, Austell Cosmetic Dentistry. That case was continued by the staff until the August 7th, 2018 Planning Commission zoning hearing, so Z26 will not be heard today. I would like to ask the people in today's audience, if you have a cell phone, please turn the volume off on your cell phones. The phones that ring do interfere with broadcast and presentations. Any person wishing to speak before the Board of Commissioners must file a campaign contribution disclosure statement. If within the 2 years immediately preceding the filing of a rezoning application, a campaign contribution totaling $250 or more was made to a current member of the Board of Commissioners. Additional information about this is located on the table at the back of the room. And I want to remind applicants, opposition, or any interested party that information is due to this board the Wednesday prior to this hearing. Any information submitted to this board after the Wednesday due date may or may not be considered by the board at their discretion. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'm ready to start the consent agenda. Cobb County Board of Commissioners zoning hearing consent agenda from May 15, 2018. Rezoning case Z23, Bobby D. McClure on behalf of Columbus J. McClure requests rezoning from R20 to R12 and RD for the purpose of a single-family house and a duplex in land lot 220 of the 17th District. The property is located on the west side of Carnes Drive and on the east side of Lakewood Road. The Planning Commission recommends approval to the R12 zoning district for Tract 1 and to the RD zoning district for Tract 2, subject to the following conditions. Variances identified in the zoning division comments and recommendations, fire department comments and recommendations, water and sewer division comments and recommendations, stormwater management division comments and recommendations, and Department of Transportation comments and recommendations. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to rezoning case Z23? Let the record show there's no one opposed.
Okay, I'm gonna be voting against this one because of the lot sizes. I just find it, we're taking one of the lots from 20,000 square feet to 13,000 square feet, and then one of them from 12 to 10, so I'll be voting in opposition to this one.
Okay, rezoning case Z24, CK Multifamily Charlotte LLC. Request rezoning from GC to RRC for the purpose of a multifamily residential community in land lots 947 and 948 of the 17th District. The property is located on the northwest side of Acresville Road, on the north side of Galleria Lane, and on the south side of Galleria Parkway. The Planning Commission recommends approval to the RRC zoning district, subject to the following conditions. Letter of agreeable conditions from Mr. Parks Huff dated April 25th, 2018, with the following changes. To item number 1, strike the last sentence. To item number 4, subset C, add to the end, the gates to the parking deck to allow for a proper stacking of vehicles on site as determined by Cobb DOT. Add to item number 5, subset A, add to read the parking garages to be fully sprinkled per NFPA 13. Add to item number 7, modify to read compliance with recommendations from Stormwater Management Division. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to rezoning case Z24? Let the record show there's no one opposed.
Just for my edification, this is RRC, right?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. And part of my learning process is I'm reading the definition for RRC. Is there gonna be mixed use as part of this development?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I didn't see that in there. I'm sorry, I missed that part, okay.
Well, I mean, there's like some retail for the folks that live there, but it's also part of the bigger complex of
Sure,
the Galleria.
right.
That's where a lot of the mixed use is also.
Okay,
So basically, it's RRC is being added to what's already there.
okay, I was just looking at the definition that was in the book, and I just was looking for the mixed
Right, but
use part.
I think the better way to look at it is that it's kind of like the standout right now that's not part of
Yeah.
the overall development. And so it's being kind of drawn into the rest of the development.
So as part of the bigger development, it'd all be RRC?
Yes.
If I looked at it in that context?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Right, John? That's my
Correct.
understanding, yeah. So,
Okay.
because this is general commercial right now, which is.
Sure, right.
So.
I was just curious about the RRC designation. If
Right,
you look
and
at the
and it's
bigger
more,
picture.
yeah, it's more looking at the bigger picture, because one of the things that they all did here was a survey of the folks that worked in the office buildings to see how many would actually live there.
Right.
And they had many more than the apartments that are actually going to be built, so.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's more of kind of looking at the entire complex.
Okay, thanks, appreciate that.
Okay, rezoning case Z25, Greenhouse Properties of Atlanta LLC, request rezoning from R20 to R12 for the purpose of single-family detached homes, land lot 696 of the 17th District. The property is located on the north side of Lee Road, east of Pine Ridge Road. The Planning Commission recommends approval to the R12 zoning district, subject to the following conditions. Letter of agreeable conditions from Mr. Garvis L. Sanders Jr., dated April 10th, 2018, and April 11th, 2018. Lot 6 to have a 7.5-foot side setback on the west property line. District Commissioner to approve the final driveway location. Variances as identified in the zoning division comments and recommendations. Water and Sewer Division comments and recommendations. Stormwater Management Division comments and recommendations. Department of Transportation comments and recommendations. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to rezoning case Z25? Let the record show there's no one opposed.
And I'll be, again, opposing it, I'll be voting against this because of the lot size issue, so.
Okay, and just kind of word about that. This is basically consistent with what has been going on down the street, so.
I just,
It's part of making the lots similar to what's already there.
I get that part,
Same with my case.
I get that part, I just,
Yeah. The same size, two lots on the same.
it's going from 12,000 to 9,000 square feet, that's my issue, and I can have that, it's okay, I know I'm gonna be outvoted. I'll be able to sleep it tonight, I just concerned about the lot sizes. It's always been my issue about, are we backdooring these lot sizes from R something to R something? If we're gonna make it R something, we should say we're gonna make it R something. So, in this case here, I just wanna express my growing concern about the lot sizes, so. But again, we'll be okay.
I'm not gonna be able to sleep.
You can keep moving, John. I know we need to move this along.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rezoning case Z27, Walton Communities LLC, request rezoning from OMR to RSL for the purpose of an expansion of an existing attached residential senior living community in land lot 581 of the 16th District. The property is located on the easterly side of Interstate 575, westerly of Chastain Meadows Parkway, and northerly of Roberts Trail. The Planning Commission recommends approval to the RSL zoning district, subject to the following conditions. Site plan received by the zoning division on February 1st, 2018, with the district commissioner approving minor modifications. Variances as identified in the zoning division comments and recommendations. Water and Sewer Division comments and recommendations. Stormwater Management Division comments and recommendations. And Department of Transportation comments and recommendations. The applicant's representative is present. Is there anyone here opposed to rezoning case Z27? Let the record show.
I have a question. Are we gonna mitigate the impervious surface going from 55 to 75? Is the stormwater gonna take care of that issue?
It's going to be accommodated in the.
Okay,
detention
I was my little
ponds.
concerned when I saw that.
Rezoning case Z28, Tyler Chandler Homes LLC, request rezoning from NS and R20 to RSL for the purpose of a non-supportive detached residential senior living community, in land lots 693 and 694 of the 19th District. The property is located on the northwesterly side of Powder Springs Road, northeasterly of Horseshoe Bend Road, and on the north side of Applewood Drive and Cider Mill Court. The Planning Commission recommends approval to the RSL zoning district, subject to the following conditions. Revised site plan received by the zoning division on April 25th, 2018, with the district commissioner approving minor modifications. Letters of agreeable conditions from Mr. Kevin Moore dated April 25th, 2018, and we did get one last night dated May 14th, 2018. All garages to be used primarily for the parking of vehicles with only incidental storage that does not interfere with the parking of vehicles. The renderings attached to the stipulation letter that are representative only to the basic style of the homes, but are not approved elevations. Fire Department comments and recommendations, Water and Sewer Division comments and recommendations, Stormwater Management Division comments and recommendations, and Department of Transportation comments and recommendations. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed? Rezoning case Z28. Let the record show there's no one opposed. And I believe the applicant wants to make a comment.
Oh, okay, sure. Morning, Kevin.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for that consideration. There's two individuals here that we have been meeting with that requested an additional stipulation, which we're agreeable to. If we can add that, they've consented to stay on the consent agenda. That additional stipulation would be that the applicant agrees to utilize pest and mosquito control on the planned detention pond. That's it.
Okay, add that in there.
So if the commissioners would be amenable to that, they're in agreement with this proposal.
I am, Chairman.
Okay.
Yes.
The other question I had is in the notes there, it said that the county has to pay for structural repairs to the Applewood Estates detention pond, but this latest letter here will address that issue, is that correct?
The latest letter just allows for there to be the cooperation between the developer and the county to make sure that occurs on the county pond and county drainage easement.
Okay.
That's correct.
I was just, it's a matter of who pays for it and how we get here, but apparently you're going to address that issue, so I'm fine with that. Okay, thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Okay, moving into land use permits on the consent agenda. LUP 4, Maria Claudia Ortega requests a land use permit renewal for the purpose of a daycare in land lot 949 of the 16th District. The property is located on the east side of Allgood Road. The Planning Commission recommends approval for 24 months, subject to a maximum of 20 children, maximum 3 employees, no signs, and no parking in the right-of-way. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to LUP 4? Let the record show there's no one opposed. LUP 5, Dathan Johnson and Marie Johnson request a land use permit renewal for the purpose of a pet dealer in land lots 769 and 770 of the 19th District. The property is located on the east side of Shady Side Road, north of Hurt Road. The Planning Commission recommends approval for 24 months, subject to a maximum of 1 customer per week on site, maximum of 15 dogs on the property, maximum of 3 litters per year, and Stormwater Management Division comments and recommendations. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to LUP 5? Let the record show there's no one opposed. And moving into special land use permits on the consent agenda, SLUP 5, 3103 ND LLC, care of Battle Law Group PC, request a special land use permit for the purpose of a freestanding climate-controlled self-service storage facility in land lot 364, the 16th District. The property is located on the west end of Barrett Corners Drive, west of Lawn Road. The Planning Commission recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Site plan prepared by Westbrook Engineering, last revised April 23rd, 2018. Letter of agreeable conditions from Ms. Michelle Battle dated April 24th, 2018. District Commissioner to approve the final architecture. Planning Division comments and recommendations. Fire Department comments and recommendations. Water and Sewer Division comments and recommendations. Stormwater Management Division comments and recommendations. And Department of Transportation comments and recommendations. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to SLUP 5?
I'm not opposed, but there's an issue about the stormwater facility overlapping the adjacent property. Has that been addressed?
Dave?
Dave Brady with Stormwater Management Division. It will be during plan review.
Okay.
The grading of that pond, the slope goes into the adjacent property.
Okay, I just
So when
wanna
they
make sure.
reconfigure it, they'll have to pull it out.
I didn't want to get into some title issue. And I'm going to have to recuse myself from this one. I was noticed one of the title holders happens to be my CPA that I do my taxes with, so there is a financial fiduciary connection there, and I just want to
Okay.
recuse myself from that vote. John
Okay.
Tomley. John Tomley.
Okay, moving to other business items on the consent agenda. Other business item number 19 is to consider a reduction of public road frontage and lot size for Steve Jordan for property located on the west side of Powder Springs Road, north of Green Drive, and land lot 475 of the 19th district. Staff recommends approval, subject to entrance on Powder Springs Road to be paved with a treated hardened surface for a minimum of 25 feet from the edge of pavement or to the county right-of-way, which is ever greater in length, with final plan to be approved by Cobb DOT. The applicant's representative is present. Is there anyone here opposed to other business item number 19? Are you opposed, sir?
No, I'm the applicant.
Okay. Let the record show there's no one opposed. Other business item number 20 is to consider a reduction of public road frontage and concurrent variances for setbacks of existing structures for Brandon Hagens for property located on the south side of Octavia Circle, west of Vester Drive, and land lots 911 and 932 of the 16th district. The staff recommends approval. Is the applicant's representative is present? Is there anyone here opposed to other business item number 20?
And John, I have something to add.
Okay.
There was a letter from the attorney dated April 30th, 2018 that should be included as one of the conditions.
Okay, got that down.
And I think the courts already have a letter.
Correct.
So that would just add to that. It's subject to the letter in the site plan dated April 30th, 2018.
Okay, other business item number 21 is to consider a reduction of public road frontage and amending the site plan for Cobb Football Holdings LLC regarding SLUP 3 of 2004 for property located on the south side of Marathon Circle, south of the east-west connector, and land lots 840, 841, 862 of the 19th district. Staff recommends approval, subject to the site plan contained in the other business packet, with the district commissioner approving minor changes, stormwater management comments, water and sewer comments, and Cobb DOT comments. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to other business item number 21?
But I like, on this stormwater variance, it says it's going to be required. Do we see an issue with that?
Dave?
Have to do a buffer variance because they're showing an encroachment.
Right. Is there going to be an issue with that, you think? I meant to come up here and just, my helicopter ears are not working very well today, so. I just want to make sure that the variance is going to be addressed and that you have no concerns
Yeah,
about that.
well, they can't do it without the variance,
Right.
so Frank would have to grant that variance. So they've got plenty of room on the site to either adjust the plan or
Okay,
mitigate the.
so you're
use
comfortable with
buffer
that?
averaging, correct.
You don't foresee a problem with that variance? Okay, I just want to make sure you're okay with
And
that.
it's not a lot, it's just a couple places.
Yeah, I was looking at the diagram. It's very unusual how they put all those fields in there. It's very well,
Yeah.
very creative, so. But I do want to protect that stream, so thanks.
Other business item number 22 is to consider a site plan approval for Venture Homes Incorporated regarding rezoning case Z37 of 2015, located on the west side of Austell Road, north of Cunningham Road, and land lots 134 and 155 of the 17th district. Staff recommends approval, subject to site plan received April 11th, 2018, with the district commissioner approving minor modifications, Cobb DOT comments, and all previous stipulations not in conflict with this amendment to remain in effect. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to other business item number 22? Let the record show there's no one opposed, and that completes the consent agenda, Mr. Chairman and Board.
Okay, with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as revised and with the noted oppositions and recusals.
Chairman, I
Yes.
received a request from an applicant to move.
Can I just get a second, then we
Yes.
can talk about it? Okay, so
Sure.
get a second? Okay, now
Second.
we're good.
Yes, I received a request from an applicant to move Z11 to consent.
Okay,
This is Z's for Easter.
you have a motion to, so let me see
I don't
here.
know if you wanted to,
Yeah, you're gonna have to read it.
Well, let's go ahead and have the board put it on consent, and I'll read it in, and the board can vote on it with the consent agenda.
Okay, but I think I need to make but that has to be a revised, what's the name of the motion here, since we're gonna be revising my motion? Substitute motion, thank you. Perry slipped me there for a second, yes. So
I tried.
so you can make a substitute motion to add Z11 to the consent agenda, and then John will read it, and then we'll vote on that, and then we'll vote on the consent agenda too.
We can vote on it. She's making the motion to.
Substitute.
Add, not
Right.
substitute your motion.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure we do this.
Yes.
That would make Perry happy.
Okay. I move that we add Z11 to the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? So you need to read it.
I'll read
And
it.
then I'll call the question, okay?
Rezoning case Z11, Aziz Harista, request rezoning from R20 to CRC for the purpose of retail or office in land lot 1296 of the 19th District. The property is located on the southwest corner of Veterans Memorial Highway and Old Bankhead Highway. The property is located in land lot 1296 of the 19th District. Staff recommends approval or deletion to the NRC zoning district, subject to all the recommendations contained in the planning commission recommendation.
Okay, any further discussion? Call the question? Passes 5-0. And now, we'll go back to my original motion for the consent agenda as revised, noted with the exceptions and recusals. Any discussion on that? Call the question. Passes 5-0. Okay, we're good. Thank you. Now we'll do OB 14, right?
Correct.
Okay, great.
And all those folks that are on consent agenda, your business is done, you're free to go.
Should we stop and celebrate?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Board. For the record, my name is John Peterson. I am the zoning division manager. The first item on today's agenda is other business item number 14, which is to consider a site plan stipulation amendment for Edison Chastain Office LLC regarding rezoning application Z20 of 2015. The property is located on the west side of Bells Ferry Road and on the east side of Chastain Meadows Parkway in land lots 498, 499, 510, and 511 of the 16th District. By way of background, the subject property was rezoned to office services in 2015 for the purposes of office and warehouse distribution. Building 600 was to be a warehouse distribution, and building 700 was to be an office building. Both buildings were together, both buildings together were to have 205,000 square feet with 265 parking spaces. The applicant would like to revise the site plan and the stipulations to accommodate one office building in the area where building 600 was proposed. The proposed building would have 150,000 square feet with 738 parking spaces. Access would still be from Chastain Meadows Parkway with no access at all from Bells Ferry Road. The required buffers and fencing would also remain as stipulated from the 2015 zoning action. If approved, all conditions would remain in effect. The staff would ask the Board of Commissioners to conduct a public hearing and consider the proposed site plan stipulation amendments. Is there anyone here opposed to this item? Let the record show there's 2 people opposed. The applicant is present, so we'll have the applicant come in first. How's it going?
Sorry. Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Kevin Moore here on behalf of the property owner and the applicant in this other business item, the applicant being TPA Group. For this property, almost 30 acres located on Chastain Meadows. And last month, this board heard this other business request and we decided that it would be held, and you decided it would be held for us to conduct additional meetings in coordination with Cobb County Stormwater Management Division and the Bells Ferry Civic Association, which was done. We had a very lengthy meeting with all interested parties, including Cobb County Stormwater Management Division, our project engineer, TPA Group, and various members of the Bells Ferry Civic Association board and members. And it was a great meeting to go through and review the stormwater issues and concerns and have those addressed appropriately. As a result of those meetings, there is a revised plan, and I want to go through really, and it really just highlights what we believe are, number one, further adjustments and revisions to even further address stormwater concerns, number one, and then a couple of additions that were requests from the Bells Ferry Civic Association. So the first piece of this was certainly as it relates to the total impervious surface area. This property, at least the property to be developed, is zoned OS. There's also R20 that's left along Bells Ferry, a strip of R20, and that's how it was originally zoned, and office services. So under the approved zoning and approved site plan, approved zoning allows up to 70% impervious surface. The approved site plan had approximately 65% impervious surface. This proposal from TPA, our original proposal that we brought last month, had a proposed maximum impervious surface of 35%, so basically half of what's allowable under the existing zoning. What we've done, and I'll use the royal we, what the project engineer and TPA has done is they dug down into the details of design to really specifically address how do we reduce impervious surface even further as a means of trying to do all that can possibly be done to address the stormwater concerns in this basin. This revised plan represents a maximum impervious surface of 29%. So again, another yet a substantial, significant, and material reduction in impervious surface. And I'm going to turn to the site plan to show you what that means and how that's done. Turning to the site plan, again, this is a 150,000 square foot office, professional office, expected to bring 700-800 jobs or more to this location as an office location. The main revisions to the site plan occurred in this lower parking lot. What you'll notice now is there's a water quality pond that's in this location. And also, if you look right here, that's kind of what's referenced as a horseshoe in all of our discussions. This is a small amount of floodplain. Previously, this parking lot had been designed where there would be disturbance of that floodplain and then mitigation elsewhere on site to mitigate disturbance of this floodplain area. The project engineer, in looking at this from a very detailed view shed, we've first protected that small floodplain area, which again adds to protection of stormwater concerns. In addition, the revisions to the site plan and the design of this lower parking area, as well as some revisions to the parking area on the upper parking lot, resulted overall in even a further reduction in impervious surface, which we think is was highly desirable by all of those concerned. In terms of the overall stormwater, Mr. Bill Higgins is here. I'm not going to pretend to be the expert that he is, and he can address stormwater impacts and concerns and how that's being addressed and handled not only by this project, but by the county as a whole, where you have the regional retention facility that's located just northeast of this property. And he can speak to the basin and the stormwater concerns that are here. In addition, we have agreed that there will be a buffer along the trailhead This is the Noonday Creek Trail and trailhead in this location. So we've made sure we've implemented a landscape buffer, which is now reflected in the stipulations as well as the site plan. And again, just to remind this board, what you see here in yellow is approximately the 2.5 acre park that was approved as part of the original rezoning. That will be a park, will be installed, implemented by the developer. It will ultimately be accessible to the public, but it won't be ultimately it won't be a county park to be maintained and funded by the county. There'll be a separate nonprofit entity that will be in charge of that park going forward, but it will be accessible to the public as additional passive recreation area for those visiting the Noonday Creek Trail and Trailhead, which we think is extremely important here. Thanks. Again, I want to remind the board that, as Mr. Peterson stated, this was originally approved for office, warehouse, and distribution. Now this is just an office building. So it's a nice size office building, but that's what this TPA group does for its office product, for what it calls its Edison concept. And I want to remind the board of what that exactly is. It's a campus style office that actually uses the environment, uses the passive areas and recreation areas to its advantage. That's the type of style for the office users and for those that want to bring their large companies to this location. The pictures that you're seeing are the other office locations of the same Edison concept that are in Charlotte, Orlando, and Alpharetta that TPA Group has already done, and you can see the type that is being developed and proposed for this location. And what you see is that inside, outside areas for the enjoyment of the office users and employees that will be there, and what is very much a unique type of concept and they hope to bring here. The last picture you see is kind of their rendering of how this would be utilized here at Chastain Meadows for what would be Edison Chastain. In addition, obviously where this is located, given its proximity to the Noonday Creek Trail and Trailhead, given its proximity to that trail system, to the park that will be created there, plays in tremendously to the very concept that they're trying to achieve with this. We think through that, you're bringing a great project to this location, one that is actually far better than what the property is currently zoned for. One that, with all the care and attention that's been paid to stormwater, has been reviewed and accomplished by the project engineer. We believe this is a fantastic project. It's a fantastic project for Chastain Meadows. That's what Chastain Meadows was put in place for. If you look down Chastain Meadows, high-end office and other types of office and warehouse and distribution, but high-end office is located along Chastain Meadows, and that's what it exists for as a location in this county for this exact type of project. With that, we would respectfully request your approval of this other business application. The letter dated May 14th is simply an updated letter. What it provides in addition to the letter from last month is, number one, that the impervious surface area would be a maximum of 29%. It also speaks to a bit more detail on lighting in paragraph 4. As far as the types of lights and making sure and ensuring that the lighting would be limited to the property itself and not to surrounding residents. Other than that, the letter represents and incorporates the stipulations that are applicable to this project from the underlying original zoning, so that none of those things have been changed, and updates it to this plan so that the concerns that had been addressed are now addressed in writing with this zoning stipulation letter. Again, I'm sure Bill Higgins is here, and he will be called upon to address stormwater in a much more detailed and comprehensive manner than I could possibly ever do. But with that, again, we respectfully request your approval, and I'm here to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Any opposition?
Okay, and I just remind those who are about to speak, you have 10 minutes, so just be mindful of the fact that there's more than one speaker.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Tulin Avard, and I'm here from the Bells Ferry Civic Association, and we are here in support of OB 14. We agree with the updated stipulations and the fact that the new site plan calls for only one 3-story building. Also, the strip of R20 would remain on the north and east sides of the property to ensure that OS would not touch Bells Ferry Road. Another positive note is the 2.5-acre passive park on this property that can be used by the public and will connect to the Noonday Creek trailhead. The BFCA understands that the Chastain Meadows Regional Detention Facility and the Mark Avenue Detention Facility have helped greatly to contain water runoff from all the impervious surfaces added from the new developments in the area. We were concerned, however, that given the fact that this property contains several wetland areas and that 45% of this property is floodplain, measures would need to be taken to mitigate all the water runoff, especially since additional 328 parking spaces have been requested than is permitted for an office this size. We would have preferred to see the developer incorporate pervious surfaces in all those extra parking spaces. However, due to cost, the applicant claims it is not feasible. Instead, the outer parking lot was reconfigured, which according to the developer in the county, reduces the new site plan's total impervious surface to 29%. We appreciate the 15-foot buffer between this parking lot and the trail and the plan to leave the natural trees and shrubs along the stream and trail, which attracts wildlife, thus drawing more visitors to this area. When people visit the Noonday Creek Trail, their aim is to connect with nature and not to have to look at the back of warehouses, offices, and parking lots. In addition, we appreciate the fact that the perimeter site lighting will utilize a forward throw LED light fixture, hopefully on timers, to minimize the effects to the neighboring property owners who were very concerned about this issue. Big Shanty Plantation, located to the north of this property, has had ongoing issues with flooding in their subdivision, and we were worried that OB 14 would cause even more. We recently found out, however, that this has been caused by natural debris and garbage that has been blocking the tributary that runs to the west of the subdivision. According to the county, this will be cleaned up and should correct the flooding issues that they have been experiencing. We appreciate Commissioner Burrell organizing meetings between us and the developer's attorney, Kevin Moore, as well as with area residents and the Stormwater Division. Working together enabled us to find a compromise that we found mutually agreeable. It must be noted, however, that we hope that the traffic study and the updated FEMA flood plan, neither of which we have seen, will not have negative impacts on the development. Looking out for the best interests of the community and its residents, the BFCA supports reasonable development in our corridor. Therefore, we view OB 14 as a more positive alternative than its predecessor, Z20, and we are in support of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Karen Huck. I'm a 18-year resident of Chastain Lakes.
He's going to help with the picture.
I received a copy of the site plan on Friday, and if I can see well, these were the concerns I sent in, but go to the next one. It shows 858 parking spaces on this site plan, not the 738. Also, the park on there is supposed to be 2.5 acres, but it's an out-of-scale site map. So I just have a concern of when the final drafts come out for these. When do we all get to see them? This just doesn't seem right. And then the other thing I had a concern about was there's lots of parking lots and unused facilities in the area, and if we just keep repaving along, and he'll show, keep going. Keep going.
Good picture.
Keep going.
That shows I was at the meeting.
Yes. 620 spots on Canton Road on a Friday afternoon. This is at the old Department of Driver Services. This is the Old Time Pottery on Canton Road, 520 spots on a Friday afternoon. Keep going. This is the Cowboys area on Old 41 and Cobb Parkway. Used to be Winn-Dixie, and this is where the Walmart used to be on Busby that was moved over to Chastain Meadows, and that's another big parking lot. And this is along Barrett Lakes Boulevard. All this, or most of this, has been abandoned buildings. They're built, but they're not, is there any more of those? That's it for that. It's just concerning to me that these are not redeveloped sites, that we're continuing to just move closer to the watershed. You know, some incentives to redevelop rather than clearing off a new spot. And we have lots of traffic issues in that area. I am concerned if the traffic study hasn't been done yet, because we do now have that apartment building and then the other apartments behind, the Sherlocks coming in. And that's just my concerns about the situation. As far as the stormwater goes, the water quality ponds, oil floats. So as those parking lots put water down in those water quality ponds, I think it was 80% of the time they'll hold the water. The other 20% of the time they're going to go into the Noonday Creek area. Well, that's going to reduce our water quality in Noonday Creek. And that is a concern of mine, that we keep our watersheds clean. And building retention facilities, I was unaware about the Mark Avenue one. Of course, I know about the one, the Chastain Meadows one. I had no idea that we were spending, I guess it was water system funds to build these, rather than maybe redeveloping old parking lots and unused spaces within the area. And that's about all I have. No. And I want to put in a plug. I went on the garden tour. Master gardeners want you to keep funding for the county extension service. They said they really appreciate that. And that's really what I have to say.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Huck. Appreciate it.
Did you get?
Is there anyone else in opposition? You have almost 3 minutes. Okay, John.
Mr. Chairman and Board, the staff would recommend the Board of Commissioners approve the request, subject to the letter from Mr. Kevin Moore dated May 14, 2018, which includes the site plan marked as Exhibit A, stormwater management comments, Cobb DOT comments, and all previous conditions not in conflict.
Okay, Commissioner Burrow.
I'd first like to submit a letter from Steve McCullers and Bill Higgins regarding some of the issues that have been discussed in the meetings and also today, and some pictures as well that Bill took. Well, they've all seen them, because it's referencing the debris that's blocking everything. So, and I know Aaron took pictures as well, Aaron Mulgrew, of the same trash and debris, and the owner has agreed to clean that up, regardless of what happens today. One other thing before I get into the stormwater management. On the original site plan where the water, you may want to put this up, where the water quality pond was on the side that's now in the horseshoe, on the revised plan, it did have the number of parking spaces at the top and the bottom, and it totaled 857. And I don't know where the extra one came from on the revised plan to get to 858, but maybe Kevin can clarify that later. In the essence of time, because I know Bill Higgins has to meet another scheduled appointment, I'd like to ask him to come up, and Dave Braden, if you will. We did discuss this at the last zoning hearing. We held it so that we could have a more public meeting with the Bells Ferry Civic Association and surrounding neighbors. I think we had about 30 or 40 people at that meeting last Friday, a week ago. And we also had some additional conversations and emails explaining a lot of that as well. So, Bill, I'd like for you to address the different, and Dave, the different suggestions that were brought forward with the berm and why that's not gonna work, and how we came to this, even reducing the impervious more.
Let me address that.
Did he put up the other?
This is the new plan. The one,
I know, but for the parking, well, I'll come back to that.
okay, there it is, all right. First of all, there were some suggestions about trying to put a berm along the trail here and along there. I think part of the reason was the opposition was thinking that the parking lots would run off into the floodplain, but our stormwater management plans will not allow that. All the parking areas have to drain interiorly to the stormwater management and through the water quality pond. So there's not a need to put a berm there to force that water to go through water quality treatment. And secondly, a berm there would be grading in an area of natural trees that we're trying to preserve in the first place. So I think the revision in the layout for the parking, as well as moving the water quality pan to the current location, mitigates both of those issues. So that was certainly a good outcome from the revised plan. What was the other question you were wanting me to answer, Commissioner? Was it about the parking? The impervious surface, yes.
How we got,
I think the applicant had
reduced down.
looked at trying to do pervious pavers for as many of the sites, mainly the overflow. In lieu of that, they reworked. I think what was the cost, Kevin? About 40,000. It was about 16,000 per space. Is that right? Yeah, it's about 40,000 for
25 spaces.
25 spaces per 25 spaces, right?
Right.
Which is very expensive. We would rather have no runoff than because there is runoff even from pervious pavers. So reduction of 1.75 acres is a significant reduction in the site, and I think it more than mitigates for what we are trying to accomplish with reducing the parking. So I'd rather have no impervious area than have it be pavers. So those are the two issues that I think they addressed well. Secondly,
Okay, and can you, pardon? The berm?
She didn't quite understand.
Yeah, I'm not understanding how.
they
you're
reduced
reducing
they changed their layout of the parking area and reduced the surface by 1.75 acres. That's a huge area. They would have never been able to put enough pavers on the site to reduce the runoff by 1.75
And that
acres.
reduces runoff more than the pervious pavers.
That's correct, right.
Okay.
By putting the water quality pond in the floodplain, that horseshoe at the bottom.
Yeah, that was the next point I was going to make.
And moving that parking where the water quality pond was.
Relocating this pond also reduces the required grading that would have had to been done in this area in the first place. So that's really a third benefit as well.
Right. So, also, can you explain the facilities that we have and the application bill for the Laurel Lake? And then also address Karen's question regarding the, oil from cars and runoff in the water quality pond. You address that?
Let me address the water quality and
Okay.
then address the regional facility. I think the misunderstanding was that the water quality facilities are designed to, on a storm event that is 80% of the storms that we get, that storm event is what it's sized for. The perception is that it doesn't do water quality treatment for the other 20%, but it does. And the fact that there's oils and greases that run off from the parking lot that go to the water quality pond, those ponds have the outlet control structure designed so that that material stays in the pond. It doesn't get flushed through the outlet control system. So our ponds the water quality ponds are designed to treat all the storm events, and they don't release that through the outlet control structure. So I want to make that clarification. Does that make sense? Does that answer that question? Okay.
It does to me, but
Bill's going to talk about
Yeah,
Do y'all have any
the
questions?
regional facility.
as far as the regional stormwater management facilities goes, the big one, I think everybody is aware of that one, is on the main stem of Noonday Creek. It's just west on the upstream side of Chastain Meadows Parkway. It was already mentioned that it was constructed with water system funds and with fee in lieu of detention contributions from private developers collected in instances where it didn't make sense to do detention in that particular area. These were properties that were right beside the floodplain and were far enough downstream that it actually made more sense to allow water into the main stem rather than detain it and allow it to, the piece to possibly coincide with, which is what was coming down the main stem. The second facility that I don't think as many people were aware of was Mark Ave facility. That facility was completed in 2012, summer of 2012. It was funded primarily by the Army Corps of Engineers in a cost-sharing agreement. Our contribution was about 30% of the total $2.6 million price. And this is I may have mentioned it before, but this is a very busy part of the watershed where we not only intercept about 14 square miles of Noonday Creek along the main stem through a very heavily urbanized portion of the watershed, but we also have several large tributaries entering the creek just downstream of Chastain Meadows. We have Noonday Creek tributary number 3, which is where Mark Ave is located. A little bit further downstream, we have Little Noonday Creek, and we have Noonday Creek tributary number 4, which enters the creek just downstream of Chastain Meadows Parkway. One of the things that the Chastain Meadows facility does, in addition to actually store water, it actually delays the peak from traveling down the main stem of Noonday Creek and allows these other tributaries to enter, including even Big Shanty Creek, to enter and pass on downstream before the peak enters the main stem of Noonday Creek. So there's a timing. There's a timing issue there, which I think the Chastain Meadow facility is one of its main function is to retard the peaks coming down the main stem and let those other tributaries enter into the creek and pass on downstream. But the third facility that I mentioned at the meeting a week ago is a proposed facility. Have not brought it before the board at all yet. But there's a private lake on Noonday Creek tributary number 4. It's located between Bells Ferry and I-575. It's Laura Lake. It's a Category 1 dam, and I'm in discussions right now with GMA and FEMA about getting federal money to fund the improvement of that dam to create a stormwater management facility. I'm also in discussion with the owner about donating that land to the county. It's all a little bit up in the air, but it would be another outstanding stormwater management facility on or within the Noonday Creek Basin if we can make all the pieces fit with funding and the donation of property. But the other thing I mentioned at the meeting, which I'll just mention briefly here, is not only do we have the 2 existing regional facilities, but we also had a ongoing effort since 1999 to acquire floodplain properties on Noonday Creek. I distributed a map at the meeting, but we own over 550 acres of floodplain on Noonday Creek, which gives us the ability to do things like the trail that runs right beside Noonday Creek, which is, I think, a good public education benefit, and also provides a buffer to surrounding developments, but also it preempts any development in those areas. So I don't know, those were some of the just key points I mentioned at the meeting.
Commissioner Weatherford.
And do you have the
Earl?
updated,
One
I'm
second.
sorry,
He had one question.
Yeah, may I ask a question?
sure.
Have you reviewed this revised site plan?
I have not reviewed the new one. I've just seen it today. I have not
Okay,
reviewed it in a
so-
lot of detail.
And I appreciate Stormwater 101 and everything, but I'd like to know if this meets our standards and it's better than the previous one. That's what we're here to discuss. So I mean, to me, this appears to be a lot better plan than what we had before and even before the one we approved last time. So if you, I mean, I'd like to know what staff, you particularly, think about this plan.
Well, the thing I like most about it is the reduced imperviousness. It was some 35%. It's been reduced to 29%. And the second thing I like about it is there's no more proposed encroachment into the floodplain. They're using one of the water quality ponds to actually allow for less grading right next to the floodplain, which I think is a big benefit. I mean, those two things alone won my support for it. But
Well, just for my untrained eye, it looked like a much better plan as well. I just wanted to say that. So I have no other questions about anything other than the site plan thing.
Commissioner Burrow.
We discussed the updated floodplain maps. Have they come out yet? Do you have those?
I
So
just
that we
received,
could-
I just received the floodplain maps. I haven't looked through all of them yet, but I just got the new floodplain maps a couple of days ago.
Okay. So when will they be made available to the public?
Well, they're available online right now. I sent a link to you. I can resend the link or make it available to anyone, but
You sent me a link?
I thought I did
Okay.
from Dewberry. If I did, I'm sorry. I'll send it again. I
Yeah, can you resend it and I'll send it out today?
certainly.
Okay. Okay, I think that's all I have for the two of y'all, and thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin Moore, can you come up? Where's Kevin? Can you put that site plan that I sent around a minute ago back on the screen? This was the previous
Correct,
site plan with the parking all in the horseshoe and
correct.
floodplain. And if you look at the top where the office building is going, it says 519 parking spaces. And if you look at the bottom in the horseshoe floodplain area, it says 336. Or is that 338?
$338.
Okay, so my calculations say that's 857. Is that correct? Did that stay the same when you shifted the parking and the water quality pond?
The total now is 858. But that total of 858 includes standard parking spaces of 840, and then the handicap parking spaces of 18 to reach that 858. The site plan that was the one that's on the screen now, which was the prior version, actually had 857 standard parking spaces plus the additional 18 ADA. So this actually represents a reduction in the total spaces of proposed. If you count standard parking places plus handicap to get to the same total.
Okay, because at the meetings, we discussed that you're required with the office space, square footage, you're required to have 550, I think.
Plus or
was
minus, that's correct. But
around that figure.
you're required to
and-
have 550 or so parking spaces as the minimum, that's correct.
And you're over that, and we talked about pervious pavers for some of the additional, but as you mentioned previously, the price is kind of unreasonable, but, I think from what Bill and Dave Braden gave us, moving the water quality pond in the floodplain is actually better than the pavers, but it also reduces that impervious from 35 down to 29.
Correct.
And actually, under this zoning category, 70% is allowed. So
Correct.
you're way under what it could have been. So I definitely agree this is a much better fit than what was approved previously, and I think I've addressed that with the group.
I just have a question. Kevin, why is there so many extra parking spots?
Sure. The parking is project critical for this type of office campus project. TPA has seen in Charlotte, Orlando, Alpharetta, that the type of office users that will be there, that amount of parking is necessary and project critical. Absent those parking, the project wouldn't go forward.
Okay.
And this will be an 8 to 5 office
Yes.
park. And then we also discussed some kind of timers on the lighting, and we can, when the final site plan and all that comes back, we can have a landscape plan and a lighting plan with the timers.
Correct.
And address that.
Yes.
Because I do want to get that in there. Okay, I think, well, do y'all have any more questions?
Nope.
Okay.
Thank you.
W's ready for a motion.
About 10 minutes ago.
Well,
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Don't worry about it. You're fine. Just make your motion. Just make your motion.
okay, I would like to make a motion. Well, first, I'd like to thank the Bells Ferry Civic Association, the Hucks, and all the neighbors involved, the applicant and Mr. Moore, and a special thanks to our staff for meeting above and beyond, all of you, meeting above and beyond what is typical or required of these zoning cases. I'm very pleased to see the Bells Ferry Civic letter and comments today, and it just shows how their dedication and hard work in trying to make sure everything is beneficial as much as possible and is actually a better fit for the neighbors and what could have been. So thank you all for all your hard work and time spent on this. Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we approve other business item number 14 with the site plan that was submitted Friday, May 11th, and the revised stip letter dated May 14th from Mr. Kevin Moore. On the stip letter dated May 14th, I'm sorry, number 12, page 4, I'd like to add, under the last sentence, designated green space shall be prepared in such a manner as to provide passive enjoyment by the public. And when the final site plan comes back, I would like to see what will go in that area, whether it's benches or picnic tables, what is planned for that. And then also, in that same letter, number 4, page 2, with where the lighting fixtures and also to look at adding the timers to the LED light fixtures to minimize the effects upon neighboring properties, and timers.
That's your motion?
That's my motion to approve
Okay.
with
We have a
those
You have a second?
comments.
You have a second? Any further comments?
Oh, one more.
Okay.
I'm sorry. The applicant is to remove the debris that's clogging up the creek near the end of Big Shanty Trail and near Briar Gate Lane. The landscape plan along the property that faces the trailhead is to be approved by District Commissioner and County Arborist with review from Bells Ferry Civic Association, including Mr. and Mrs. Huck. All other steps of Z20 from 2015 to remain in effect that are not otherwise in conflict. Staff Planning Commission comments and recommendations not otherwise in conflict.
Okay. Now we have a second, and Commissioner Ott.
Yeah, I just want to, I was opposed to what was approved here the first time. And I still have concerns about some of the flooding issues and all that, but I do think that from what is currently approved to be there, this is a huge improvement, less impervious. So I'll be voting for it, but I do think that this is a very delicate site and that the stormwater needs to be paid particular attention.
Agree.
Commissioner Cupid.
It's a similar comment. I opposed the original application and was very concerned about stormwater and also the intensity of having distribution in the residential area. This particular plan does remove the distribution site and it limits it to office, which I think is a significant reduction in how intense the site is. And so it makes the application supportable. Similar to Commissioner Ott, the number of parking spaces does seem to be a challenge. However, I'm trusting our experts here from staff that that would be mitigated by the placement of the detention pond. And I'm supportive of this application moving forward or other business item.
I'm going to support the proposal. I say I have the same concerns about the floodplain, but the good news is that all those cars that will float away will be insured. It won't be a county expense. Ms. Huck, I think we need to address those concerns about the submission of the site plan, that the people should have the opportunity to do that. But I've expressed that before, and I'll just express it again. These kind of proposals are controversial to begin with. I'm very pleased that the Bell Civic Association was heavily involved in this because I know they're very, very vigilant about their community, and so if they support this, I will get behind them on that. But I do want to again say that it's the little things that matter in here, and the realignment I know was meant to respond to concerns by the Bells Ferry Association. But I'd also like to say if we could, get these site plans in front of the people as quickly as possible, that would be appreciated, by both the chairman and also I think the people who provide us these positions through their elections would appreciate that too. So with that, Commissioner Burrow, I will call the question.
Did I have a second?
And yes, you did. Commissioner Cupid did. And it passes 5-0.
Thanks.
Can we just take a short recess so I can make some coffee?
Thanks, Bill.
Okay, we're back in session here after a brief recess. So with that, John?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. And the next case has a special land use permit with it. Would it be the board's wish to hear those together, make separate motions?
Sure.
Okay, I'll call those together. Rezoning case Z7, 3103 ND LLC, request rezoning from R20 to NRC for the purpose of a climate-controlled self-service storage facility, office and retail, and land lots 690, 691, 750, and 751 of the 17th District. The property is located on the west side of Oakdale Road and on the east side of South Cobb Drive. Additionally, SLEP 2, 3103 ND LLC, request a special land use permit for the purpose of a climate-controlled self-service storage facility and retail office in land lots 690, 691, 750, and 751 of the 17th District. The property is located on the west side of Oakdale Road and on the east side of South Cobb Drive. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to these two cases? Let the record show there's two people opposed. All those wishing to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in.
Good morning.
Good morning. Michelle Battle with Battle Law here, representing the applicant. We have been working on this particular project now since the beginning of this year, and we are excited about the possibilities here for hopefully getting this approved today. The subject property is a 2.497 acre tract that's located, as indicated by staff, off of South Cobb Drive and having frontage as well on Oakdale. And the property currently is zoned R20, which is actually not consistent with the current land use designation of NAC. We are seeking to rezone the property to NRC to allow for the development of a self-storage facility on the property. When we originally put forth this application, it was intended to be both a self-storage facility and retail facility. However, after comments received during the Planning Commission meeting, as well as comments received from the community and Commissioner Ott, we dropped the retail component of the project and instead redesigned the site to solely accommodate the self-storage facility. And the proposed stipulations that you have received indicates that the project would be limited to use as a self-storage facility. With regards to the conditions that we have proposed, we worked very diligently with the community to address the issues that had been raised during the several community meetings that we actually held at the Country Inn and Suites over the course of the last few months. With regards to the overall site plan, I'd like to point out a few things. These things came as a result of the conversations with the community. Number one, there was a lot of interest in protecting the integrity of Oakdale Road. That was extremely important to the community and to Commissioner Ott to make sure that we were designing this in a way that had as little visual impact on Oakdale Road as possible. With that, we proposed inserting a landscape buffer, a 20-foot landscape buffer along Oakdale Road. There will be fencing within the interior of that line that will match the fencing directly across the street on the residential projects here. So that fencing will be a black picket fence with brick columns that will be located here. It will kind of turn the corner and end in this location so that there is landscaping along this portion, the northern portion of the property as well. We then continued that landscaping for an additional 10 feet down the side of the property in order to, again, provide just visual coverage, and from the adjacent property owner here that's actually zoned GC. But the community had asked for that, and so the applicant was more than happy to provide. We also proposed variance that allowed us to move, that would allow us to move the building down. The front setback off of South Cobb is actually required to be 50 feet. We're proposing a variance to 40 feet, which allowed us to move the building back and to provide for actually a 50-foot buffer, a 50-foot setback along Oakdale Road. What this also achieved for us, because the way that the property is designed, it falls from Oakdale Road down into the site, so this is a much higher elevation. It's moving down, so we made sure that we kept the public storage building at the current elevation on the site at 9.10 to 912, and that allowed it to kind of sit lower so that there was less visibility of this building from the Oakdale Road side. Additionally, we provided additional parking spaces and a loading area off the front of the building to make that clear that trucks would be able to maneuver safely on the site and then exit off of South Cobb Drive. There will be no points of entry along Oakdale Road. There will be no curb cut, no access, again, to protect the surrounding community. We also provided, I think we can get these up. Can we do both of them at the same time, or just one? Great. From a visual perspective, we've got a building that has various architectural features, including brick along the front and stucco ephes that will be used for the exterior with the more neutral type colors. We also added a tower effect here in the front, and as well to the rear we added, and it's a little more clear from the architectural drawings that you have, but the intent here was to have 4 towers that would basically be located along the Oakdale side in the brick manner that was consistent with the architectural features along Oakdale Road of the homes on that side. And then we also put the caps on the tower to give a little distinguishment on the roof line so that it didn't look so flat on the rear side. The community was very supportive of those changes along with the special stipulations that we provided to you. I believe that there are some changes that are going to be asked by Ms. Barnes, and we are more than accepting of the changes that she is going to be recommending. So with that, we would respectfully request approval of both the rezoning and the SLUP. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions on this battle? Okay, thank you.
Mary Rose Barnes, Oakdale Community Association. Thank you, Ms. Battle.
Yeah.
The present plan is certainly an improvement over the original with now only one building, and we appreciate the applicant's consideration in this matter. The architecture is much more attractive. The applicant has further agreed to a 10-foot tree buffer to the north of the property, GC property, which wouldn't ordinarily have been required, and we appreciate that, with a chain link fence and a metal picket fence with columns along Oakdale Road, plus our requested construction hours. He's also included wording to notify neighbors and plantation pipeline officials of blasting times should blasting become necessary. An active pipeline is on property adjacent to the subject property. Since the county has eliminated the county blasting code, this accommodation is crucial. The pipeline runs through my personal home site and those of many others in the community. In the interest of clarity, we respectfully recommend the following additions to the May 9th stipulation letter. Wording added, this letter would supersede all previous stipulation letters to prevent any possible confusion in terms. Add to stipulation number 1, retail business to be limited to the sale of boxes, packing supplies, etc., specific to the storage business, and that no other service business on the site, it is listed as a self-storage business, but did not specifically say it was that only. And to stipulation number 3, add 10-foot land, after a 10-foot landscape strip, add the word with fence. The applicant kindly offered to install a chain link fence at our May 8th meeting. Fence is referenced on the site plan, but not on the stip letter. In addition, we request a reversionary clause to take effect in the event that the construction is not begun within 18 months of approval of its application. Ms. Battle has agreed to these comments. The applicant has shown a real desire to coordinate with the project with their neighbors' concerns, and we wish him well. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Jessica White, representing the historic Oakdale area along with Mary Rose. The Planning Commission recommended to deny the zoning case, and we do as well. It's the mission of the Historic Oakdale Alliance, which is a new organization that we're started, to create a forum to unite the neighborhoods that make up historic Oakdale community. This includes facilitating a dialogue around the development and identity of our neighborhood and initiating activities which connect us as people and families in the community. The scope of the Historic Oakdale Alliance includes a series of neighborhoods, and I won't read the list. The Oakdale Alliance, representing Historic Oakdale, supports the Riverline Historic Area's publicly stated interest in saving as much of the shoe paid for it remains as possible, installation of historic interpretive sign at the site, and auxiliary parking for Shoepade Park. As a community, we desire to preserve the historic nature of our community in a physical sense, as well as create places for community development such as green space, parks, and ensuring that businesses that move into the historic street of Oakdale itself have significance to the community. The approval of this zoning case does not align to our community objective. While our area may need such storage units, we recommend that they not be approved on Oakdale Road itself. If this rezoning, however, is approved, we agree with the changes proposed today as part of recommendations made by the Oakdale Community Association and very much appreciate the effort that has been made to maintain the safety and beautification of Oakdale Road. Thank you.
Okay, I just have one question. Did you say the staff recommended denial?
What's that?
Oh, Planning Commission. Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you. I just want to make, I heard it wrong. I apologize.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Commissioner Ott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First thing I want to do is I want to commend both the applicant and the community. This went from dead on arrival to what you just heard. And that only happened because the applicant was willing to sit down with the community and talk about what their concerns were. Now, the new group that the second speaker just spoke about, it's the first I've heard of them, and I understand what you're trying to do. The problem is that your objectives are not written down anywhere to kind of use as a guide as to what it is you're trying to accomplish, and so that would be very helpful, in working with trying to preserve the historic Oakdale. More than happy to sit down and meet with you and kind of work on what some of your goals and objectives are relative to that, because as you know, the really historic part of Oakdale is the circle, which is mostly undeveloped right now. And so I think that it would be really good to have those objectives kind of spelled out so that when future development comes along, we can kind of use those as a guide. The other thing is, let's talk about the Shoepade, because I got an email about this. On the GIS map there, you can see where the arrow is. That is probably one of the better preserved Shoepades in the area. The Shoepades were built by General Shope as part of the Johnson River Line for the defense of Atlanta. Only place that they are is in Cobb County. And so the one there is very well preserved. Unfortunately, on this site, that's not the case. This one, there is really no way to pick it out in the terrain as to where it was. Yes, there was one here by all indications, but there is really no way to preserve it in a meaningful way. So with that, I'm going to make a motion. And you have to kind of, the Planning Commission recommended denial, so we don't really have anything in the minutes to go by. So I'm going to recommend or make a motion to approve. I'm going to do the zoning for Z7 to the NRC category, subject to the stipulation letter dated May 9th, 2018, with the following changes. And just for the board's information, I know we've used these terms in the past, but a particular case that Debbie, myself, and others are working our way through, these particular words are kind of becoming part of the problem. So in item number 2, where it says the district commissioner to approve final architectural elevations which will be in substantial conformity. Those words are going away because they don't work. So basically what I'm going to say is that, and David, if you can kind of show the left picture, So the elevations will be as referenced in this picture. I don't know if you want to give it a number, Pam. And the materials will be the same materials that were shown and described by the applicant's attorney in this photo. The other photo, just it's going to be part of the record. However, it is a kind of a conglomeration of different views. So the second photo will only be referenced for the materials to be used in the various parts. In the letter that is dated May 9th that you received a copy of, there are architectural elevations that will be used as the guideline for the elevations, with the materials to be the same as what is shown in the two drawings.
Commissioner Ott, at the bottom, it says view from Oakdale Road on the second photo.
Right.
And the other one was view from South Cobb.
Okay, so the
So if you want to refer to it as.
So the first photo, when I refer to the first photo, that will be, the elevation will be the same as the drawing listed as view from South Cobb Drive, and the materials will be the materials shown in that elevation and described by the applicant's attorney. The materials on the remaining portion of the building will be the same as those shown in the view from Oakdale Road. However, the elevations will be what are depicted in the stipulation letter dated May 9th, 2018. So that'll be the change number 2. Number 3, where it says landscape plan consistent with the site plan, the landscape plan will be that landscape plan as depicted in the letter dated May 9th, 2018, with the final approval by the district commissioner. And number 10, it says a minimum 6-foot-high black aluminum picket fence with brick columns. Where it says substantially similar, it'll say to match the fence erected on the east side of Oakdale Road. I mean, and these are all things that the applicant has already agreed to. It's just changing the wording. So that's number 1. Number 2, add the stipulations as listed in the letter from Mary Rose Barnes dated May 15th, 2008. I'm not going to read those again. She's already read them, and you all have a copy. We've talked about the elevations, with the final elevations to be approved by the district commissioner. We talked about the landscaping plan. And I've got a question for DOT. So if everyone wants to come up and. Yeah, in your recommendations, it talks about curb gutter and on Oakdale Road, which does not exist today.
We did, I believe there's sidewalk curb and gutter to the south side of Oakdale, from what I recall. We have an aerial. So if you go a little bit south of the property, there is sidewalk and curb and gutter on that side.
Okay, but is this sidewalk that you're, because part of what we're trying to do is preserve the buffer with Oakdale Road. My concern is if we put sidewalk, curb and gutter in there. Ms. Battle, do you want to come up and? Because I know we talked about putting an interpretive sign, but my concern is that this much improvement.
So it's my understanding in terms of the width of the right-of-way, I believe that the width of the right-of-way is already there. So therefore, we would simply be installing the sidewalk and the curb and gutter within the existing right-of-way. I don't believe
So
that
you
we have to
still,
dedicate
it's not going to
anything.
impact the 20-foot?
No, it should not impact the 20-foot buffer because the improvement should be being made within the existing right-of-way.
Okay, all right, that's fine, then I'll leave that in there. The other thing, Ashley, is you all requested an FAA study. This building is only 35 feet tall now.
Okay, on the original site plan, it was the same
And the original
height?
site plan, it was taller.
Okay, so that's why we had that.
Okay,
Those comments
so
were
are you
based on
okay
the
with
original.
striking the FAA?
That's
study?
fine.
Okay,
Mhm.
so for staff comments on DOT, we'll remove the requirement for an FAA study. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
All right, and with that, the final part of the motion would be that all other staff comments not otherwise in conflict.
So,
I'll second, but I have a question.
Well, at least a second it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Okay, then never mind.
Commissioner Cupid, second.
Commissioner Burrow.
Did we, I'm a little confused on the Chapades, because we did have a letter from the historic river line.
Right, but it cannot, there is no shall pay to protect.
So we did the survey, And didn't find anything?
Um,
Mandy? Somebody?
Commissioner, we actually were required to do an archaeological study on the site, which was performed by R.S. Webb and Associates. That is dated March 28th, 2018. That was turned into staff. The conclusion that they reached is as follows. Based on the result of the current study, the earthen feature and environs within the project area do not retain the integrity necessary to allow meaningful interpretation of Civil War features to the public, and no additional work is recommended. Excellent examples of the chupades on the river line can be found in Chupade Park immediately east of the project area. So the determination was made that there simply was not sufficient chupade left on the site. If you went out there, you wouldn't be able to distinguish it. It's mostly kudzu and the like on the site. So.
Okay. Can you submit that for the record? Because I have.
Certainly.
Thank you.
and Mandy, you're good with that, right? Anything else?
Yeah. I just have one question. Somewhere here in this, on all these pages, it said that the traffic was not burdensome. And yet, you have a level of service of F. So I just want to make sure that, as I keep saying, let's make sure that our comments are consistent with what we're saying in our graphs.
I think the comment is reference to the traffic increase by the self-storage facility.
Yeah, that's fine, but still.
They're not commenting on the level of service on South Cobb Drive. They're commenting that this particular project will not impact it in a more negative way than already exists.
You're right, it's already negative, so we'll.
Well, no, I mean, it's the whole discussion that I always have about self-storage facilities is that the amount of traffic that they generate is negligible.
I have no issue with the issue of the traffic in the traffic area on the climate storage facility. I know it's gonna, I'm just saying that the level of service around the climate storage is already level service F, all right? So even though there won't be a lot of traffic coming in and out of there, and I agree with that comment, that you just add somewhat to that.
I'm surprised it
to
happened.
make the overall thing burdensome. That's all I'm saying.
Well, the other
But
thing
it would
to keep
also be less than R20.
Yes, it would be.
yes.
And I was just gonna say that even the existing zoning of R20, the self-storage is going to generate less traffic than what would currently be allowed under the present zoning.
Okay.
So,
So since I'm being taken from both ends here, I'll go ahead.
all right, and just want to clarify that this vote is only on the zoning,
Right.
because we have to have a
Right,
separate one for the
right.
slope.
I was gonna call the question.
Right, well, just,
Call the question. This is fine to serve.
all right, and I'll make the next motion for the special land use permit. Make a motion to approve special land use permit number 2 with all the same conditions as were just mentioned in the previous zoning.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question. Pass it 5-0. Thank you. All right, good job. Let's see here. Couple more other businesses.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Board. For the record, my name is John Peterson, and there are 2 other business items to hear, plus an amend motion next. The first item to hear is other business item number 28, which is to consider a stipulation amendment for Meridian Restoration Incorporated regarding rezoning application Z42 of 2014 for property located on the north side of Liberty Hill Road and on the south side of Hiawassee Drive in land lot 660 of the 16th District. By way of background, the subject property was rezoned to neighborhood retail commercial in 2014 for the purpose of a gym and an auto repair shop. One of the rezoning stipulations limited the use of the property to the stated uses only, with the Board of Commissioners approving any changes via the other business process. The gym is still operating there, but the auto repair has left the property. The applicant would like to place their contractor's office on the property. The applicant's office hours are Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and there will be approximately 5 employees on the property. The applicant will renovate the interior of the building and will leave the exterior as it exists today. The applicant states there will not be any outdoor storage of materials, but there will be a dumpster to place their construction debris into. The required buffers and fencing would remain as originally approved in 2014. If approved, all other conditions should remain in effect. The staff would ask the Board of Commissioners to conduct a public hearing and consider the proposed stipulation amendment. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to this item? Let the record show there's 2 people opposed. All those wishing to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in.
Hi,
Morning.
good morning. My name's Matthew Getchy. I'm the Northwest Manager. This is Kyle Gunner. He's actually out of our Swanee office. We basically would like to rezone for the business use of restoration. We're a restoration mitigation company as well. We won't have any heavy contractors' equipment on site. And I think we've talked to Ms. Brown and some of the community concerns, and basically would just like to address some of those concerns as well. We've talked to the owners of the building, and we have agreed to do some improvements on the exterior of the building, and any other concerns that the board may have.
You're aware that the county recently passed some incentives for small businesses like yours to help you with the issues that were addressed, that I'm sure Ms. Brown's going to talk about. Were you aware of this program we have here to encourage small businesses just to not only to come here, but also to stay here? So I would ask you to, is Dana here? Yeah, he's in the back. Talk to that gentleman, that young man in the back. At my age, they're all young men.
Yes, sir.
And see what we can perhaps do to help you in that regard that you're talking about with the issues.
Okay.
And just to clarify, Meridian Restoration is leasing the building.
Right.
The building was bought by the owners
Right.
of Meridian
Correct.
as a separate LLC.
You're a partner.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak on their behalf
Sure.
today, in terms of any improvements to the building. In terms of the business license for Meridian Restoration,
Sure.
we are separate in
Okay.
that aspect.
All right. Well, we're all in this together. Okay, thank you.
And in speaking, before this, right before coming up here, we're willing to make concessions and exterior renovations. Our biggest concern to our business is critical is the dumpster, roll-off dumpster that we have on the side of the building, which is being asked to be removed. I say it's critical to our business, and the question was asked, well, why can't we have a dumpster put on job sites? Well, a lot of these jobs that we do are smaller in nature and only require a truckload of debris. And if every time we had a truckload of debris, we had to send our employees to a site, it just is a lot more incurred overhead to do that, as opposed to bringing it back and putting it in, consolidating it in one roll-off can. I believe what would be approved would be a smaller, 4 cubic top load dumpster that more seen in like an office space. My only thing to that is that, we could do that, but, if it's a issue of the noise, we're gonna be dumping that smaller dumpster, 3-4 times as many times as a larger, roll-off dumpster. We're only putting construction debris, no food, no perishables, nothing that would create an obnoxious odor of any kind. It's just drywall, 2x4s, flooring, carpet, stuff like that. So, we're willing to do whatever it would take for the board and for anyone, in opposition to appease them if that particular, that's really the only thing that we are asking to be considered on our behalf.
Well, we'll wait to hear from the other side, and then the board will discuss this, and we'll see what happens. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. For the record, I'm Carol Brown with Canton Road Neighbors. And I hope you'll bear with me. Glasses on today, and I'm going to have my nose right in the screen. One of the problems generally that we have had, and it's been an ongoing problem, goes back to 2010 when the NRC code was opened up to allow contractor as a special exception. And like many corridors, we have neighborhoods adjacent to a narrow commercial strip, and when you approve a use that's too intense for a business in this business-friendly county, it tends over time, if it's not the right use, to absolutely ruin the quality of life for the neighborhoods that are long established right behind it. This is a much older metal industrial building that was spot zoned many years ago inappropriately before there was planning. And it has a new owner. It's a fairly small building. It would now be shared with a gym and the new owner, Meridian Restoration. We did not fully understand what Meridian Restoration did until last Friday afternoon. They work with insurance companies. They do loss mitigation. They will go out to a site that's been burned and possibly had flooding. They remove asbestos, lead, wet carpet that has mold, drywall that has mold. And of course, the EPA regulates the asbestos. That has to stay on site in a lined dumpster that's covered, and it has to go to a special site in the landfill. But there are other smaller projects that there may be in a gray area where they're going to bring some of the stuff back and they want to put it in an open roll-off construction dumpster. Well, first of all, that's not really allowed in NRC. Basically NRC says no uses that generate fumes, odors, noise. And if you are dumping moldy drywall, moldy wet carpet, lead in an open roll-off dumpster, if the wind blows, that mold, I believe, can spread easily. You have a gym next door it's an open air, got an open garage where people are working out. They jog up and down the street. There's a residence contiguous to this location with an older resident, probably with some health problems, and the next speaker lives right behind it. You know, we were just going to ask that this be limited to office use only appropriately. We're fine with the operating hours. All we've asked for is straight out of the NRC code under special exceptions. No heavy equipment on site, no outdoor storage. But this dumpster has now become the main problem. We, of course, would like to have seen some exterior improvements to this old building. We support the DOT recommendations. The driveway is crumbling. But now the dumpster has become the major issue. We feel that this is not appropriate at this site. This is why we have such problems with contractor as a special exception in NRC. And we would just ask that you stick with a small front-loading dumpster for office mixed stream waste only. No construction debris to be allowed on site. And that really is our main concern at this juncture. And you're going to hear some additional issues from the lady who is contiguous to the property. Thank you.
Excuse me. So if there was a stipulation that said that about the dumpster, all right, that you just mentioned the requirements, if there was a stipulation that met the dumpster criteria you're looking for, you would support this? zoning or not?
I want, there's a stipulation letter that I sent in exactly 1 hour late last Wednesday. And there are a number of, if you'll just refer to that letter.
Okay, all right,
I want the NRC code followed.
all right.
Everybody likes to talk about following land use and code. Well, let's follow the NRC code, especially as it applies to special exceptions in NRC.
Okay,
And Commissioner Burrell and I had a good, productive discussion yesterday, and she is the district commissioner and has actually a fair amount of experience with this particular discussion about, waste disposal. And I'm going to let her handle the issue, but she knows how we
Okay.
feel about this. It's a health issue. It's a health issue. All right?
all right. And I remember reading your email, so I appreciate that. I just want to make
Thank
sure.
you. Ms. Thomas?
I'll give you some extra time till I ask the question, so don't worry about that. I'll give you 6.5 minutes.
Maybe I'll do it in record time. Good morning, commissioners. Thank you for having me.
You might just be a little bit closer to the microphone. You're very soft-spoken.
So as Carol said, a
Very
little
good.
better.
That's perfect.
We have a hereditary problem, and I believe it has come from the spot rezoning from years ago that creates a lot of the things we end up discussing here. And thus, with the business being zoned NRC, I would like to see that being upheld and the stipulations being followed through for that. We would like to see more office buildings go in there instead of heavy equipment noises going into that area if that building is still going to be used for so-called office use, or the land to be used for office use. The noise has started picking up from the dumpster this week, from the stuff being dumped in there. So not only is it a health concern, but the noise from it. From surrounding businesses, we have also had the dumpsters, even non-commercial dumpsters, if you will, that has made noise, and where we've had to, I've had lots of help from Mr. Ann Burrell to kind of streamline so that the trash companies do keep to the timing, so that the noise is reduced to business hours, because the sound travels really far. Then with surrounding businesses, when they put fences up and the maintenance of the back of the properties, when that's not kept up, we do have rodent problems, mosquito problems, as well as it becomes a dumping ground for whoever goes behind there, because it doesn't give a maintained look, and because it's not maintained. People, I think, just have it's almost like they don't have respect for their area. So even I have seen people come in and dump just dirt, red soil in the back of this green property that we're talking about today. And so it's just, I guess my points are noise, health concerns, and especially also from the gym that's still there. 5:30, 6 a.m. in the morning, even from the bass, from the music, I can feel it while I'm sleeping in bed, and I wake up from that. And so all that to say, it just shows how far noise and smells can travel. And some of the renters we've had before even had illegal painting going on inside, and the fumes from that would come in and kind of get stuck on my porch and even spray over my car. There was steps that the previous owner tried to take from that. So all that to say, we're not very much in control of who the renters are. And if the stipulations aren't enforced and followed through, and what gets said and done here, before they start making use of the buildings, it becomes extremely hard for us to have help in people renting it, maintaining and upholding what needs to be upheld without your help. Thank you.
I'm sorry? Yes, on the map. Could you show us where you live on the map? That's a great question.
856 Hiawassee Drive. There you go, where the arrow is,
Okay.
R20. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I appreciate it.
And what was your name again?
Anne Marie Thomas.
Okay, nice. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess no more discussion. All right, so, John?
Mr. Chairman, Board, the staff would recommend the Board of Commissioners approve the request, subject to a contractor's office use only for meridian restoration. Office hours be weekdays only from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. No heavy equipment kept on site. No overnight parking of service vehicles outside the building. Dumpster to be screened and location be approved by District Commissioner. Dumpster not to be used for any construction debris. And Cobb DOT comments to be done at redevelopment. In all previous conditions not in conflict.
Go ahead.
You said the contractor's office only, but is there not a gym still there?
Yeah, but it's not in the.
Well, the gym was approved on the previous.
No, but it's in that building, right?
Okay, I understand what you're saying, so I'll change that to contractor's
Because the way the wording
office
you
and
have
gym.
would have that the gym not allowed.
Right,
Okay.
but the gym is allowed. Right.
The office space on here where the automotive was.
Right.
Because I have some, there's different hours too.
All right.
And let me clarify one more thing, Mr. Chairman, Board. I accidentally called this as other business item number 28, but it's actually other business item number 23.
Right. I'm glad you said that. I thought, I heard that, but as usual, I thought I was wrong. For once, I was right. That's all yours.
John, a roll-off construction dumpster is not allowed in NRC, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so, I just wanted to clarify that, and then from the original zoning, we had the hours for the gym, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., but no music or noise prior to 7 a.m. Because our noise ordinance for dumpsters, everything is after 7 a.m. So, and Ms. Thomas stated that the music from the gym is before 7 a.m. So, I'll get with Kathy Pickett or Dana can to enforce those steps for the gym. And, when I make my motion, I'll differentiate the Meridian versus the gym for hours and that kind of thing. Okay?
Okay.
It's all yours. Make
Okay.
the motion. We're ready for you.
Okay.
Ms. Brown made it very clear she's been working with you for a long time, and I'm very confident that you two have a motion here that will work for everybody.
Right. I would like to make a motion that we approve other business item number 23, subject to the following. This portion of the building be designated as contractor's office use permitted for Meridian restoration only. No construction roll-off on site. No construction debris brought back on site. No dumpster larger than a 6 cubic yard allowed on site and used for office waste only and screened from the neighbors and the road on the side, on the facing the building on the left side of the building. No heavy equipment on site, no overnight outside parking except for cars and vans, minivans. Operating hours for Meridian to be 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Ground-based monument sign only if applicant decides to install signage. Landscape plan to be approved by the district commissioner. And county arborist with review by Canton Road neighbors. Paint color, to be approved by district commissioner with review by Canton Road neighbors. Landscaping and repainting work to be completed by June 1st, 2019. And Cobb DOT recommendations to be completed upon redevelopment or if the building footprint is changed. And staff and planning commission comments and recommendations not otherwise in conflict.
Okay, we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Commissioner Ott?
All right, I have a little bit different take on this. You know, the LRO zoning category is designed to transition from commercial to residential. This shouldn't be NRC to start with. But then to add a second use to it, one that is pretty intense with the restoration company. I mean, it's bad enough that there's a gym there, but then to add a second use, I mean, it's even kind of doubling down on the inappropriateness of what's there. I can't support this. I mean, this should be going the other way to some less intense use up against the neighborhoods. I mean, if you see up on Hiawassee Drive, you have NRC along Canton Road, and then you have LRO transitioning to the residential property. And although this may be zoned NRC, the uses should be consistent with an LRO as a transition into the neighborhoods.
Well, there was an automotive shop there, so an office is less intense than what was there.
My comment is the
And
fact that it's two
they're
things.
not doing any construction or bringing it back there, according to the steps we just put in. It's just office.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, it's inappropriate. It's too intense.
Okay. Any other comments? Commissioner Cupid?
Yes, I support the commissioner's recommendation. However, I would just modify a term. You said for Meridian office use only, and I would just, you say for office use only, so it doesn't look like it's just for Meridian, but just general office use to support your comments. And then you provided screening on the left side of the property when you face the property. I don't know what that means. Are you talking
That's
about?
for the dumpster on the side of the building.
Is this going towards the GC property?
Yes, where the NRC letter is under
Yes,
the
okay,
R20.
then, okay.
That's the side where the dumpster is
Okay.
currently.
And it's my understanding, Commissioner, that the gym is going to remain, and then there's going to be the office use in the site, and that's what we're facilitating today. Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Weatherford, do you have anything?
Just, maybe I missed it, but we're going with the NRC, which means no dumpsters, is that correct?
This is another business item for the use and the site plan. It's not a rezoning, correct?
Right, so it's.
So I can't change it to LRO at this point.
No, what I mean is, you're not allowing dumpsters, I guess,
Not roll off
roll.
for construction.
The only thing I would suggest is that one of the things that we did in the city when I was there, because we're so proximate to the lake and everything, is we provided covers over each dumpster, and that would help, and it was surrounded on three sides and with a gate and a roof, so that, and there's some controversy on whether it drips through or whatever, but the fact is, it would shield it and also keep the odors and rain from getting in there.
And the county
So I
code
would
does
require an
the-
enclosed
the-
dumpster.
Excuse me.
Well,
Sorry.
a dumpster is enclosed.
No, I'm
It
talking
has-
about around it, because what you.
It is gonna be fenced around. It is gonna be screened
With a
and
roof
fenced.
as well, is the only thing I was.
Does the code require it to be?
No, ours doesn't.
Yes, ma'am. The county code does require it to be covered and hooked to either the sewer or a drain field.
Okay, on top too, as
Yes,
Commissioner
should be a
Weatherford?
cover on, should be a.
They have
roof on top.
lids. I would recommend
Well, they have roof,
rubber
but-
lids too, not metal.
We built a structure around it.
Well, but the dumpster, my understanding is, I'm not a dumpster expert.
I am.
Okay, but the ones I've seen, they're a box, and you slide, there's doors on the side, you
Right.
slide, and you throw the trash in there.
That's
And
right.
some of them have rubber on top, you just, for the dumpster to cut, the truck to pick it up and dump it into the back of the truck.
But the
So-
problem we found, especially around restaurant stuff, they never closed them. They left them open so they could get stuff in there all the time. And with a garage structure over that, it also shielded it and it kept that from happening. But that's just a suggestion.
Well, with a no larger than a 6-yard dumpster and it's gonna be fenced or enclosed,
That's,
you won't need that for this operation. Cause they're not gonna be bringing construction material or, it's just office use, I mean, paper and
Okay.
break
All right.
room, whatever.
We have any further comments, discussion? With that, I'll call the question. Passes 4-1 with Commissioner Ott in opposition. All right. OB, we have what here? OB 24, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Other business item number 24 is to consider a site plan and stipulation amendment for GD Kennesaw LLC regarding rezoning application Z54 of 2017 for property located at the northwest corner of Big Shanty Road and George Busby Parkway in land lots 502 and 503 of the 16th District. By way of background, the subject property was rezoned to regional retail commercial in 2017 for the purpose of student housing and retail. The applicant has finished the final engineering of the project and needs to amend the site plan and certain stipulations. The site plan needs to be amended to move the parking deck from the north side of the property to the east side of the property, to show a fire access road around the building, reorient the building, and revise the service parking lot. The applicant also needs to revise the stipulations to reduce the retail portion of the building from 17,500 square feet to 11,000 square feet. The parking deck was stipulated to be a maximum of 6 levels. Due to a reduction in the surface parking based on the revised site plan, the parking deck is proposed to be 7 levels, with 6 levels above ground and 1 level below ground. The deck will not exceed the height of the building as originally approved. If approved, all conditions not changed would remain in effect. The staff would ask the Board of Commissioners to conduct a public hearing to consider the proposed site plan stipulation amendments. Additionally, Mr. Chairman, Board, there was a question from one of the members of the public regarding the moratorium we currently have on student-built housing. This does not fall into the moratorium because this was in process prior to the moratorium being put in place. And number 2, the moratorium just applies to rezoning applications, not other business applications. So they're not asking for any more housing than they already have. Is there anyone here opposed to this application? Let the record show there's no one opposed. The applicant is present, Mr. Chairman and Board, if there are any questions.
Commissioner Burrow. Well, there's no opposition, so, you know.
I'm happy to answer any questions.
I was gonna say.
The only proposal is because the stipulations call for a 6-level parking deck. This will be a 7-level parking deck. That additional level will be actually underground basement that they've needed the parking for. So that's really what, and then they shifted the Lego pieces around, which I think is actually a better overall site design for the project.
Okay.
Just stay up
Okay.
please. Okay.
Thank you.
Just some clarification. I know that the additional floor is underground, so the garage will not be any higher than the building.
Correct.
And in the stip letter from Z54 of 2017, on page 2, you've got number 5, you've got applicant intends to construct a structure a maximum of 6 stories, maximum of 85 feet in height.
Right.
So are we, the garage will not be any higher than from the ground up. The 6 floors are 85 feet, same as the building, correct?
That's correct. It'll be
Okay.
less than that.
It's actually less?
Yes.
Okay. And then where you had to shift around for this fire lane,
Yes.
I just want to point out that you are going to put some landscaping in the front there, by the front entrance on either side of the entrance, facing Big Shanty.
Yes, in these areas there will be landscaping. This was previously designed as a surface parking lot on the corner. So now the design of this project as well as the landscaping here is more in keeping with the town center CID guidelines, which was one of the stipulations in the master plan for that area.
And the size or nothing changed? The square footage is all, the footprint's the same of the
Correct.
building,
Correct.
the square footage,
Overall, that's correct.
so. Okay. And this was discussed with Bells Ferry, but they didn't stay because they're good.
Correct. They have no objection to this. They supported it originally, and this
Right.
change doesn't affect any of the issues they were concerned
Right.
about. And those all those conditions remain in place.
Okay. I'm ready to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that we approve other business item 24, subject to the following: landscaping to be added in front of the parking deck facing Big Shanty. Landscape plan to be approved by County Arborist and District Commissioner with review by Bells Ferry Civic Association. All other steps of Z54 2017 to remain in effect that are not otherwise in conflict, and staff and planning commission comments and recommendations not otherwise in conflict.
We have a second? Second. We have a second? Any discussion? Call the question. Passes 5-0.
And Mr. Chairman and Board, the last thing on your agenda is to amend something previously adopted. Section 25 of the Board of Commissioners zoning hearing and land use procedures, adopted January 11th, 1994, and last revised October 19th, 2004, allows any commissioner to amend an action taken at a previous hearing. A second shall be required, and a full discussion shall be allowed. A majority vote shall be required for the adoption of the amendment, and if passed, a second motion will be needed to revise the conditions. This particular item would be to amend stipulations for Z12 of 2017 and SLUP 8 of 2017, as listed in the official minutes from February 20th, 2018. The stipulation that needs to be amended is to amend the building size for the storage facility from 98,000 square feet to 98,676 square feet.
Commissioner Ott.
Okay, so the first thing I need to do is make a motion to amend something previously adopted.
So
Which I just did.
we have a second? Any discussion? Call the question.
Well, I have a question.
Oh, sorry. My bad.
This is just pertaining to the SLUP, the storage unit, not the whole
No, this
complex,
amendment,
or yes?
this motion is just to amend something. We haven't gotten to the part about what we're amending. I have to
Okay,
make a motion
okay.
to amend something first.
Okay,
Yeah, we have to reopen it.
okay.
All right, so I'll call the question. That passes 5-0. Now you can talk about.
Okay, so now I make a motion to amend the stipulations from Z12 and the SLUP. The SLUP was to approve the self-storage, but the Z12 was the one that had the square footage. So basically amend the building size for the storage facility from the 98,000 square feet that is on the minutes in the record to the actual 98,676 square feet.
Okay, we have a motion, have a second?
Second.
A second, all right. Any discussion now?
Yes.
Okay,
The difference in square footage, the 98,676 applies to the storage facility, correct? Not the Kroger and everything else?
Correct, but it's listed in both the Z12 application and the SLUP, so it needs to be changed in both.
Good,
Because
but
the minutes show 98,000 square feet.
it's just for that building.
Yes.
Yes,
Right.
right.
And I voted to approve the storage facility. It had no variances, and this is correcting just a mistake on the square footage. So I don't have a problem with that, but if it applies to Z12, I didn't support that.
That's a great question.
But I do approve of it, because I do agree with the storage facility, and it's just amending.
It's only amending the size of the storage unit, which was a
Right.
part of Z12.
I know.
Yeah, so
It's
I
corre-
mean,
It's
if you-
basically correcting the minutes. That's really what's happening.
right. There
Because
was
all
some
of the
discrepancies.
depictions, all the
I understand
drawings in
that.
that had the correct size in
But
it.
how can I separate the
Yeah,
two?
I'd like to hear Deborah on this. So tell me how this works out.
If, I mean, if she didn't support Z12, I mean, she doesn't need to vote on Z12. What we could do, well,
You've got it in one motion.
I know. That's
Well,
what I'm
Okay,
trying to-
well,
I'm waiting to see how she wants to resolve this.
Let's do it in two motions.
Okay, we didn't advertise it that way.
Oh, crap.
I mean, the problem
Debbie
is,
Blair.
the problem is when we deal with
Yeah.
zonings and special land use permits, we
Am
have
I
to advertise.
blushing?
I mean, Mr. Chairman, I mean, we're getting wrapped around the axle
Well,
here.
and
The
of
bottom line
course-
is,
I'm good with,
You
I
are
think what we're
too.
gonna do here is, I'm gonna go ahead and call the question, okay? I think that what we're trying to do here, we can't do it because it wasn't, like you say, advertised that way. So
let
you
me-
can- you can, you have the.
If
you
I
have-
may make another comment after you're
Sure,
finished.
yeah, go ahead.
For the record, if I say I'm okay with the number change, but still not in favor of Z12, but am in favor of SLUP, whatever SLUP number it was.
You're just agreeing to the change of the minutes about the
yeah,
square.
all we're
feet.
doing is we're
Right.
correcting the minutes
I know
to
that.
match.
I
Can I finish, please, Commissioner Burrow? Instead of you talking over me? I'm talking.
Excuse me, Chairman. If I,
Let me let Commissioner Hart finish first, and then. I'll
All
let
this
you-
is that the clerk brought to my attention that in my motion, I said 98,000 square feet, when in actuality, on all the drawings and site plans, it said 98,676. So all this is doing is correcting what I said at a meeting. It has nothing to do with the zoning, has nothing to do with the SLUP. It is literally to correct what the minutes say.
Okay,
And not asking for anybody's opinion on whether they supported one or the other.
okay.
I understand that,
Commissioner Cupid,
Commissioner
hold
Ott,
on, Commissioner Cupid now, go ahead.
but you're not gonna put words in my
Commissioner Burrow,
mouth.
please. Commissioner Cupid.
yes, Chairman, I would just ask for your help in, I know you've done a great job in allowing us to speak, but I'm feeling uncomfortable with the level of decorum here. And our meetings, you've allowed for all of us to participate, but it would be helpful if you acknowledge the speaker before the speaker speaks, so that it doesn't turn into something beyond what we all desire here.
Well, this one clearly has gone a little bit somewhere I didn't thought it would go, but I appreciate your point. So now Commissioner Burrow, you have the floor again.
For the record, I would like to say that I'm okay with the administrative change for the numbers, the difference in 98,000 and 98,676. And because it appears as Z12 and SLUP 8, that's, for the minutes to be administratively changed. I don't have a problem with that. I understand that. I'm just saying,
And
I don't want it to appear that I'm in favor of the zoning.
So if I may, if you wanted to vote, right, vote if you just vote to oppose it. I think that it might be passing anyway,
No,
based on
I
other
don't, I
comments.
don't want to do that because that's not what I'm stating up here.
Okay, Commissioner Cupid?
I'd like to make a recommendation to Commissioner Burrow. I believe it's possible for you to support the stipulation and change and not support the motion. If you were to ask the clerk to provide in the record that your vote does not support Z12, but supports the stipulation change for Z12.
And she's
Well,
done
that's what I
that.
just said.
She did that.
Okay,
All right,
okay,
so we're good with that.
all right.
Okay, let's go ahead and call the question. Passes 5-0.
All right.
And with that, I believe we're done. All right. Okay, thank you.